Iran has just said no to the United States, and not quietly. Tehran has rejected Washington's peace proposal, laid down 5 non-negotiable conditions, and told Trump directly, "This war ends when Iran decides, not when he does." It says, "The Middle East just got a whole lot more complicated, and the clock is ticking. Here's what you need to know. Fast. For nearly a month, the United States and Israel have been at war with Iran. Strikes, counterstrikes, a blockaded strait, and skyrocketing global energy prices. This conflict has already shaken the world economy and pushed regional tensions to a breaking point." Curious. Behind the scenes, diplomacy has been moving quietly. Pakistan reportedly delivered a U.S. proposal directly to Tehran. Turkey and Pakistan were both floated as possible neutral venues for talks. And for a brief moment this week, it seemed like a deal might actually be possible. Then Iran said no. Iran's state broadcaster Press TV, citing a senior political security official, reported that Tehran responded negatively to the American proposal. And officials didn't stop there. They went further. Much further. According to the official, Washington has been pushing negotiations through multiple diplomatic backchannels, but Tehran sees these proposals as, and this is their word, excessive, completely disconnected from the reality of America's failure on the battlefield. That is a bold, pointed statement from a country currently under sustained military pressure. And then came the 5 conditions. Iran's official laid out exactly what it would take for Tehran to agree to end this conflict. Not suggestions, not opening offers. These are conditions. Condition number 1, a complete halt to all aggression and assassinations. Full stop. No partial ceasefire, no pauses, everything stops or nothing moves forward. Condition number 2, concrete mechanisms, not promises, not words, but concrete enforceable mechanisms to guarantee the war is never reimposed on the Islamic Republic. Iran wants guarantees built into any agreement, not verbal assurances that can be reversed the next morning. Condition number 3, war damages and reparations, clearly defined, legally guaranteed. Iran wants to be compensated for the destruction, and it wants that commitment locked in before any deal is signed. Condition number 4, the war must end across all fronts, for all resistance groups across the entire region. This is huge. This isn't just about Iran's own territory. This extends the reach of any potential deal to every proxy group and allied faction connected to Tehran. And condition number 5, this one is the one that sent shockwaves through global markets. International recognition of Iran's sovereign right to control the Strait of Hormuz. Let that sink in. The Strait of Hormuz, the narrow choke point through which roughly 20% of the world's oil supply flows. Iran wants the world to formally recognize its authority over it. That's not just a military demand, that's a geopolitical earthquake. But here's the most shocking part of all of this. These 5 conditions, they're on top of demands Iran already submitted during the second round of negotiations in Geneva, talks that took place just days before the US and Israel launched a fresh wave of strikes on February 28th. Think about that timeline. Iran was at the negotiating table in Geneva, and then came another round of bombing. Now Tehran is not just standing firm, it's expanding its list of demands. The official made one thing crystal clear to all intermediaries, all mediators, everyone carrying messages between capitals. There will be no negotiations before these conditions are met. Every single one of them. Not most, not some, all of them. No negotiations will be held prior to that, the official said, and the message to Trump personally was even more direct. The end of the war will occur when Iran decides it should end, not when Trump envisions its conclusion. That's not diplomatic language. That's a declaration of intent. Now here's where it gets complicated, because Washington is telling a very different story. Just hours after Iran's rejection made headlines, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt stepped in front of cameras and said talks with Iran are ongoing and productive. Productive. That was her word. She also pushed back on reports about a 15-point U.S. peace plan circulating in the media, saying the White House never fully confirmed that plan, and warning reporters that some of what's been published is not entirely factual. So you have Iran publicly rejecting a proposal, and the White House publicly saying talks are going well. Someone is managing perceptions very carefully here, possibly both sides. Meanwhile, President Trump himself has been sending mixed signals all week. In recent days, he swung between threatening massive new strikes on Iran and declaring the war essentially over. On Tuesday, he told reporters in the Oval Office that Iran had sent the United States what he called a very big present worth a tremendous amount of money, something he said showed the U.S. was dealing with the right people. He didn't explain what the gift was. but he strongly implied it was tied to the Strait of Hormuz, the very same waterway Iran is now demanding international recognition over. Coincidence? Strategic signaling? Both? Step back for a moment and look at the bigger picture, because the stakes here go far beyond Iran and the United States. The Strait of Hormuz blockade has already sent global energy prices soaring. Every day this conflict continues, economies around the world feel the pressure, from fuel costs to supply chains to inflation. Iran's 5 conditions, particularly the Hormuz demand, could reshape the entire architecture of Middle Eastern geopolitics. If any international body ever formally recognized Iranian sovereignty over that strait, it would fundamentally alter the balance of power in the region and challenge decades of U.S. naval dominance in the Gulf. And then there's the question of the resistance groups. Iran's insistence that any deal covers all fronts and all allied factions means this isn't just a bilateral U.S.-Iran negotiation. It drags in Hezbollah, Yemen, Iraq, Syria, the entire axis of regional actors tied to Tehran. That is an extraordinarily complex deal to close, even if both sides genuinely wanted to. If you want to stay ahead of this story as it develops, because it is moving fast, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. We're tracking every update as it breaks. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you think a deal is still possible, or has Iran drawn a line that simply cannot be crossed? Iran has spoken, loudly, clearly, with conditions the United States has not accepted and may never accept. The White House says talks are productive. Tehran says there are no talks until demands are met. Both cannot be true. Something is happening behind closed doors that the public hasn't been told yet, and whatever it is, at the next 48 to 72 hours could define the trajectory of this conflict for months to come. Stay close. This story is far from over.